Hi all. So what I'm going to be doing is talking through the different lessons this week. So as you can see, the first task or the first lesson is to read the story Lotto. It's a short story and I'm sure you will find it, as I have, quite an interesting one. Now, with stories, there are always words that are challenging and you may not have come across it or be familiar with it yourself. Now, it only matters really if the meaning of a word makes understanding the part of the story really difficult or not. I think you can read most of this story and even if you don't know a few words, still understand what is going on. Now you have the option of also using online dictionary, so even if you type in a word online and find out the meaning, that's fine. Or you could, if you've got a manual dictionary, you can do the same as well. So to carry on from there, after the story, you have a set of 5 comprehension questions. Now these are: what is the job of the main character? What advert does the main character notice online? How much money is the lottery jackpot? Who does the main character talk to on the phone and what do they talk about? And how does the main character feel at the end of the story? Now, most of the questions here are comprehension questions, which are really about you going through the story, skimming and scanning, finding the information and writing down your answer. So it's quite simple and obvious. Now, I would say the 5th question is slightly trickier because it's asking you to make an inference. So what do you think the story suggests about how the character feels? So you have to do a bit of work thinking about what it is they feel. And it could be different depending on how you interpret that. Lesson 2, analyzing the text. Now the first question is, how would you describe the way the main character feels in this story? How does she seem to feel about her life and work? List at least 3 words or phrases you would use to describe this and be specific. Now there is a part of this story where it really does describe specifically how she feels, but again you could use your inference skills, your ability to infer or think about what is suggested and write these down. And the challenge question is, do these feelings change as the story goes on? When and why? You will notice that that is the case. These feelings can change slightly, but again it's up to you whether you feel confident to do this question, which I encourage you to do. The second task is read again the section of this text, which I'm going to read out. So, she'd read about those termed the super rich in this country, the legendary top 1% of the earners who had apparently doubled their incomes in their past few years. How was life for them? Did they peruse magazine pages, catch a glimpse of a yacht they liked the look of, make a quick phone call to an eager to please subordinate, and hey presto, the yacht was theirs? Did they spend endless hours deliberating over holiday destinations, St. Tropez or Bora Bora? Had they ever known the agony of putting on expensive hair product back on the supermarket shelf and reverting to the value 1 for 99 pence? Or the monotony of making yet another round of ham sandwiches for lunch, all in an effort to save money? She suspected not. So the task asks you, in your opinion, what are the 3 best words or phrases to describe how the character feels about her life compared to the lives of the super rich? For each example, explain clearly what it tells you about how the speaker feels. So you need to look at this description and find, firstly, any example that describes how the character feels about her life compared to the lives of the super rich. So anything there, and most of this description relates to that, so you can't really go wrong. The next task, or the next part of the task, is to think about and explaining what these words tell you, and how can you explain clearly what it tells you about how the speaker feels. So really you need to think about explaining and communicating what it suggests to you and what it tells us about her life and how she feels about her life compared to the super rich. So for example, the second paragraph starts with, how was life for them? Did they peruse magazine pages? And it goes on and asks lots of questions. Now you can think about this. Why does the speaker, why do they ask questions? That could suggest that they're quite curious, that they're quite, they contemplate how life would be like. For others, maybe it suggests that they are a little bit dissatisfied with their life. Okay, so that's just one example. There are many more. So, and you only have to pick out 3. Moving on to task 3. The story is structured in a way that makes you think about the council worker and Mr. Carrington's situations at the same time. After talking to Mr. Carrington, the council worker decides to buy a lottery ticket. What parallels or similarities does the story suggest between the life of the council worker and the life of Mr. Carrington? Why do you think the council worker decides to buy the ticket after having spoken to Mr. Carrington? So this question looks at the idea of structure. Again, it's a term that you have come across many times in lessons before. Not the easiest, but this task really asks you to look at parallels. What are the similarities between Mr. Carrington and the council worker? Okay, so think about that. What parallel similarities are there? And then secondly, why do you think the council worker decides to buy the ticket after having spoken to Mr. Carrington? Again, this asks you to think about making an inference. And lesson 3, personal response, is, what do you think the story is saying about wealth and happiness? Do you agree with its message? Do you find the main character likable? Why? Why not? And did you enjoy the story? Why? And why not? So the last lesson really asks you to think about what you think about the story. And I think it's a really great opportunity to go through and really develop your answer and make a detailed answer. So try not to answer with one sentence answers really. You know, this story really, task really asks you to think about your ideas, your thoughts. What you could also do is to pick out examples from the story that suggests or proves your point. So for example, if you say that you disagree with the idea that, or you think that happiness does depend on wealth, then you can really go into that and explain your ideas. The second question, did you find the main character likable? You can pick out a number of examples where the character seems someone that is likable or not. Okay, so that takes us through the lessons for this week. I hope you will enjoy it, which I'm sure you will. But that's it for now. Thank you.